Hello everyone, so today's video is going to be a list of my favorite manga art styles, or manga artists I suppose. So this is not going to be a definitive list. This does not mean that these are all of my favorite manga art styles or artists, but they were the ones I could think of when I wanted to make this list, and the ones that have stuck with me the most, I suppose. Also, these are not in any particular order, except for the last one, which is probably my top favorite art style, but that's up for debate, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, let's get started. So the first one on this list is Makoto Yukimura. So I've read Vinland Saga and Planetes, and I like the art style in both of those. Particularly his character design. I don't know, it just really looks very nice. And then, of course, I pulled out Vinland Saga. I pulled out this cover because it's one of my favorites. And also, the art inside is really nice. It is very gory, though, so if that's going to bother you, just be aware of that. But I'm going to open some pages in here and show you what it looks like. Here's one with Angry Canute right here. So, I don't know, I just really like the way this looks. I like the way he kind of, like, makes the certain parts of it very bold. Here's a non-spoilery page, mostly, so some very angry people in Vinland Saga, and Makoto Yukimura definitely is able to capture that anger in his art. I just really like how bold the art is, always in this manga. So yeah, that's the first one. I could pull out Planetes and show you that it's not just like really hyper violent scenes that Makoto Yukimura can draw really well. Planetes is about outer space, or it takes place in outer space, and the art is the same art style, but it's used differently there. I just really like his character designs and the way he does expressions in his manga. The next one might be an unusual one to see on a list like this, but Taiyo Matsumoto, the way that his art looks, at first you'd be like, okay, I don't know about this, but the more you read this manga, the more the art looks really, like, nice. It's definitely very stylized. So the only one I've read is Sunny by Taiyo Matsumoto, and this is about children in a foster care system, and I feel like the art really just does something to make that more impactful, and I don't know what it is specifically, but you can see it is very stylized. It reminds me of something, and I can't think of it right now, but like you have some of the hair looks like clouds, and everything is very, like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I just really like Taiyo Matsumoto's art style. There's nothing that leaves me like staring at a page forever, but I do feel like it does something to enhance the story and the feelings. Next up is Posca Demizu. So she is the artist for The Promised Neverland. I pulled out this cover because it's one of my favorite covers, and I feel like a lot of other people's favorite covers. It just looks really nice. But I don't want to spoil Promised Neverland at all by opening the volume. So I do have this Posca Demizu art book that I'm going to open a little bit and show you some of the art in here. So just fun characters. Really, like, here's some steampunk stuff, and then here looks like more of a horror-esque setting. And I don't know, there's lots of detail in her art. And it just gives it a very specific vibe that's kind of spooky, but then other times it can look really hopeful. That's not hopeful, that's just mischievous, I suppose. So something like this, which she has titled Space Station Donut, it's very, very detailed and stylized, and still kind of has that sketchy feeling in there, and yeah. So when I was reading The Promised Neverland, I was always very struck by the color pages, and this art book is just a ton of color pages, basically, by her, and they all look really nice. And if you've read The Promised Neverland, you know why I like the art. I don't know why I'm trying to avoid spoilers for The Promised Neverland, because I feel like if you want to read that, you've already read it, but I just won't say anything about it, except for I really like the art and the imagery that she shows in that series as well. And then kind of in a similar vein, I have Q Hayashida. At first, it's kind of difficult to even tell what's going on with her art style, because it is very sketchy and very dark. This probably might not have been the best one to show you, but it is highly detailed and sketchy, and this really lends itself well to the world that she's created in Dorohedoro. And then the character designs are always really crazy. They're all very interesting. They all have a specific style, like this going on, in the whole manga. And I also have her art book. So hopefully there's no spoilers in here. I'm just going to look through a couple pages, see if I can find any color pages. So I think one of the things that the physical release of Dorohedoro is missing is the color pages. They will print the color pages, but they won't put any color in it. And so it looks really smudgy and gray, and you can't really tell what's happening. That's why I really like having this art book, because you can see all the color that she meant to put in her manga, and it looks really nice. And you see stuff like this. And yeah, it looks really nice. So I really like it when a manga artist is able to use their art style to kind of exemplify the setting or feelings that they're trying to portray, which is definitely what Q Hayashida does with Dorohedoro. And I imagine Die Dark as well. I haven't read that one yet. I feel like a lot of these manga artists I'm talking about are like horror manga artists, but you know, horror manga definitely is benefited by its art style, and Junji Ito is definitely a master of his craft in that regard. I don't really like all of Junji Ito's writings, like the plots of his stories or whatever, but his art is always just like awesomely gross to look at. I don't know if that makes sense, but it just looks really gross, but you kind of don't want to look away, because it's really clean, if that makes sense. So here, I'll show you some panels from Uzumaki, which I feel like is his most famous work. So I didn't want to pick one that was too gross, just because not everyone wants to see that. But here's one which kind of shows the body horror that Junji Ito uses, without showing just how super gory it can get. It can get really gory. But yeah, so Junji Ito's art style is always interesting to look at, even if I don't enjoy the plots of his manga so much. I definitely buy them just so I can look at his art, because it's very nice. I also have an art book for him as well. So next is another author I've talked about quite a bit recently, and that's Shuzo Oshimi. So I've talked about recently how in Blood on the Tracks he uses his art to show suspense and to make the reader uncomfortable without actually anything happening in the manga. It's just the way he draws expressions and faces and backgrounds that makes you feel uncomfortable, even though there's not generally anything uncomfortable happening in the manga, if that makes sense. And then in Happiness, I feel like he also uses his art to show how the characters are feeling physically. So in Blood on the Tracks, it feels very like emotionally, this is what the character is feeling. And then in Happiness, it's also emotionally, but then physically, especially in the first volume or two. So if you know Happiness, you know what I'm talking about, but it's not hard to guess what happens to the main character. If you know the premise, looking at this cover, you can probably tell. But so the main character is going through some changes, and his body is changing physically, and that is shown in the manga. So I want to show a couple panels that will show that without like spoiling anything. Well, first we'll start with the main color page, which already by itself looks really nice. I think he uses pencils or something to draw. I don't know anything about art. I just know it looks nice. But yeah, so this is the night sky scene or whatever. So here in this page, you can kind of see how it looks like woozy, I guess. I don't know what other word to use. It looks very like surreal. And it kind of, when you're reading it, it makes you feel woozy, or at least it did to me when I first read it. And so to make the reader feel the same things, physical reactions that the main character is feeling, is very impressive to me. And so Shuzo Oshimi's art is really always very impressive and interesting to look at, and it definitely assists the story he's telling and benefits it. So yeah. And last is definitely my favorite manga artist in terms of just the art. So that is Takiko Inoue. I pulled out Vagabond because everyone knows Vagabond. And obviously the art in Vagabond is very impressive. You can look up like Vagabond wallpapers and you'll see a ton of very, very nice art. I will sit there for like 10 minutes and just stare at Takiko Inoue's art. in a panel or a page. It looks so nice. I don't know what else to say about it besides it just looks really nice. So this here is just like a random opening page to a panel, or an opening spread to a chapter, I mean. So this isn't like a big battle scene or anything. It's just the opening to a chapter. The main character is going to a new place. But even here, the spread here looks really, really nice. I could stare at this forever. And just the way, like this panel right here, I could stare at this panel forever. And this one up here. Just, I don't know, it just looks so nice. And of course, there's color pages and these Visbigs too. And they always look really nice. And yeah, so that's Vagabond. Everyone knows how good the art in Vagabond is, probably. But I also want to mention Slam Dunk, because in my eyes, the last 3 volumes of Slam Dunk are a masterpiece. And that's because Takiko Inoue barely uses any dialogue in those last 3 volumes. It's all just his art carrying the story, and it feels like I'm actually watching a basketball game that's down to the wire, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you just want to keep watching, or in this case, reading to find out what happens, and it's literally perfect to me. So yeah, those last 3 volumes had me on the edge of my seat. I almost cried like twice, and I really love it. And I will, every now and then, I'll go back and reread the last 3 volumes of Slam Dunk just to see that art and the story that is being told there through his art. So if you're asking for my personal favorite manga artist just for their art, is definitely Takiko Inoue. I mean, I also love the plot and story that he's telling in his manga, but the art is just, like, great. It's fantastic. So yeah, those are all the manga artists I wanted to talk about in this video today. Let me know your favorite manga artists down below for sure. And if you like any of these manga artists, or if you disagree with me for any reason, let me know those comments as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!